Welcome to the Solid Signal podcast for the week of July 6th, 2015. We're into the second half of the year now, and so the excitement is building as far as what are we going to see, not just for 2015, but if you think about it, we're now into the second half of the decade. Funny how that all works out. Although there are some people who are going to tell you that the second half of the decade doesn't start until 2016 or whatever. I just consider those people party poopers, and I refuse to get sucked into that particular brand of negativity. At any rate, I've decided that I'm making an executive decision here at the Solid Signal podcast, and I am hereby telling you that as the decade is now entering its official second half, I am the official arbiter of these things after all, I am hereby proclaiming these are my predictions for the second half of the 2010s. Probably the easiest prediction I'll make, and it's the one that I'll make right off the bat, is that something transformative is going to happen that I can't predict now, but it's going to be something that changes everything. Just like the arrival of smartphones, just like the arrival of tablets, that there will be this new way of interacting with something that is totally different from what we've seen before. Well, of course that's going to happen. That just seems to happen on a schedule. As a matter of fact, it would be better news if it didn't happen. It'd be surprising if it didn't happen. But I don't know what that's going to be. I do have some ideas, and so I will share them with you. One thing that I forecast based on what we've looked at really in the last 5 to 7 years is that metrics of any kind will cease to become useful at all. For the last 5 years, we've sought to quantify the performance of our tablets, of our smartphones, of all of our devices against some sort of measurable goal, just like we used to measure megahertz and megapixels and all those things until we realized those were pretty much useless. I predict in the second half of the 2010s that we will stop looking at resolution, stop looking at speed, stop looking at capabilities, and there will only be one metric: how well it works for you. There will be some ineffable way of just saying it kind of works really well for you, and it's going to be a very personal thing, not something that you can advertise. Specs, my friends, are dead. The most important thing about specs is just to say the thing works, and it works fast enough so it doesn't bog you down, and it works well enough so it doesn't drive you nuts. Simple as that. Another easy prediction is the idea that we're going to stop worrying about when things are on or even where they're on. We're just going to watch whatever we want, whenever we want, on whatever we want, and not care whether or not it's Apple or Android or a television or a computer or whatever. These kinds of distinctions are just so 20th century, and I think everybody's going to guess that that's pretty much normal too. Here's a prediction, though, you probably wouldn't guess from me. There will never be a 4K revolution, period. That's my prediction. That there's going to be, so there's going to be 4K content, and it's going to be there, and it'll be part of your experience. But in terms of just like live video kind of thing, there's not going to be 4K broadcasting is my prediction. There's not going to be anything that really heralds 4K as the replacement for HD, the way that HD replaced standard definition. Just not going to happen. What is going to happen is that TVs are going to become larger and larger, and you'll see more and more content at a higher bit rate, because after all, even though I said specs aren't as important, one thing that really seems to give a better idea of quality is bit rate as opposed to resolution. High bit rate DVD looks better than low bit rate Blu-ray, and we can go on and on with that. But I predict that there is just not going to be this massive 4K revolution that a lot of people are invested in to this day. Another easy prediction is that cell data speeds are going to continue to increase to the extent that you'll be able to get 30 or 40 megabit very reliably from your cell provider, and so you won't care whether or not your cell service is also providing your home service, and you'll have enough bits in your plan that you won't have to worry about running out unless you're just total nut with streaming. It's just that simple. And again, that's an easy prediction. Here's a harder prediction to make, though. I forecast that we're going to see more or less the end of landline service. This is it, folks. Even though it may look like landline service, even though it may act like landline service, as phone lines begin to break down, those old copper lines begin to break down, you're going to see more and more where AT&T, Verizon, and other companies will simply put up a wireless link to your home and make it look like landline service. They're just going to phase it out, folks. The days of landline, true landline, are over. There's just one more thing I'm going to hit you with, and it may be kind of the most earth-shattering, it may be the least likely thing that you're ever going to even consider. But Folks, I believe that virtual reality is a bust. Actual reality, that's where it's at. And all of those companies that are publishing games for Oculus Rift or Google Glass or all those next generation things, I just don't think it's going to happen. It's just that simple. If we were going to see virtual reality, we would have seen virtual reality by now. The technology has actually been around for 20 years. And yes, it was kind of kludgy at one point, but if people really wanted it, it would be there. And I don't think that we're going to see Apple coming into this space and actually making something usable when everybody else has tried for 20 years. I just don't think that we really want to walk around with goggles or whatever on our faces experiencing life that way. It may seem really exciting, but when it comes right down to it, it's going to be incompatible with the way we want to experience the world. That's about it for the Solid Signal podcast for this week. I did run a little bit longer than my customary 5 minutes, despite the fact that I'm talking way, way, way too fast. I hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. I know that I did. And I look forward to seeing you again on future Solid Signal podcasts.